shop with the groceries. Don't pay for them. Next week's meeting will not be here at BCC. We'll be in the police lockup. All of us. I've been to the lockup, so it'll fit us all. I think if we were all to do our own thing, that's where we would be, wouldn't we? If people just made up their own rules. The scripture was very clear about authority, obeying it. We don't necessarily agree with things that are happening. We don't necessarily agree with it, that we have to pay taxes. We don't necessarily agree. When we had COVID, we didn't all agree with the lockups that we had. They tell me Victoria's lockups was the biggest one in the world. But we all obeyed the rules. But what if we had only one law to live by? The Bible tells us in our scripture reading that love is the fulfillment of the law. Love is the only law you need. You might say, what a strange combination, law and love. What does love have to do with paying your taxes or staying within the speed limit? Paul, in his writings in the Romans, Christians don't insist. Christians don't insert their thoughts on obeying civil laws because he simply wanted to fulfill space in his writing. He didn't say obey the law just because he wanted something to say. He was getting the message across that love is so important. Give to Caesar, he said, what is Caesar's. Jesus said, didn't he? Give to God what belongs to God. Our love. God gave Moses 10 laws. We looked at some of them this morning in our reading. 10 laws for the children of Israel because I think they were running amok. They'd left Egypt. They didn't have any rules anymore. No one could tell them what to do. And they were starting to run amok. And God could see this. You see, in Egypt they were slaves, but now they were free. Because I think that they were running amok. God said, stop. I'll give you some laws. They had more rules than you could poke a stick at. Rules, rules, and more rules. Now they were free. In Egypt, they had so many rules they had to keep. Now they were free. Heading for the promised land, they could make up their own. Now if we, you and I, 50 of us here, made up our own list of rules, it'd take us a while to go through them all to agree on everything that was on our list, because we'd all be different. And God could see that with the children of Israel. He could see that with you and me, that if we were left to fend for ourselves, we'd run amok. And so he gave the 10 Commandments. How do you felt Moses felt with millions of people? So God gave him 10 rules. 10 rules that I believe today, if we all live by them, our world would be a better place. We would not have people running and killing each other. We wouldn't have people causing headaches to the authorities and others. Paul says in his writing that the Christian, that we should obey as Christians the civic laws, obey the government. And we obey. We may not agree with every law that exists, but we need to obey them. God says that in our scripture. I do not believe that this means to obey when something is morally wrong. God specifically states in other scripture passages that when it comes to the matter of choice between doing something sinful and refusing, that is better to serve God. We need to learn the difference there. Do you remember that saying? I remember it as a young child. Police are not to be feared. I used to be frightened when a policeman came. When I was little, my twin brother and I used to, 5 years of age, sneak out of the house and run around the streets. And we would often be picked up by the police, try to avoid them. They caught us every time. In the end, they made sure we didn't run around the street. Paul says, if you do that which is right and always lawful, you won't have to fear the authorities. Paul explained it. The policeman is not there to frighten people. He's not there to frighten people doing right, but to those who are doing wrong. In my work, when I was a prison chaplain, I would meet so many people that had done the wrong thing, but they were innocent. They were innocent. Kept telling me that. So if you don't want to be afraid, keep the law, Scripture says. What then is the only law that you and I need? One law that we need. The Scripture says love is that law. For love does not hurt, does not harm its neighbour. Therefore, love is the fulfilment of the law. Love. Love puts yourself in the other person's shoes. What kind of love that I'm talking about here? The Living Translation puts it this way. If you love your neighbour as much as you love yourself, you will not want to harm or cheat him or her, or kill him or her, or steal from him or her. If I love my neighbour, you might say, who is my neighbour? Not the person just next door on either side, it's everyone. This is the kind of love that demands action. Action in obeying the law because therefore they are there for our good. With the Ten Commandments, why are we emphasising love so much? Paul says, love wanted no evil. Or J.B. Phillips' translation says, love hurts no one. Love is the one answer to all of life's problems. Our attitude to love gives you two advantages. Love puts you in a frame of mind which helps you make friends, not enemies. Love makes you an awfully hard person to hate. Most laws, whether biblical or civil, are a group of they shall not. Love hurts no one. And since laws and rules of home and civil are laid down to prevent the rights of others from being hurt, they can only be lived up to through love. So love is what we need. Care for one another. Is there someone in your life that rubs you the wrong way? I had an officer working under me at one time. I was the head of the public relations department. This person, he didn't like the fact that he didn't have the authority to do what he used to have to do when he was a Corps officer. He could spend money, do things, came into our department, and if you needed something, you had to do a requisition for it, same as I did, if I needed something for our department. So this officer got very upset with me one day, and he refused to come to a meeting that we had, a very important meeting, and it involved army people as well as business people. And he never came. And I thought, oh, he may have had an accident. So I rang him up after the meeting and I said, friend, you weren't there. He said, no, I deliberately didn't come. I wanted you to suffer. I said, you wanted me to what? Suffer. And I said, well, I don't agree with you, you know, and so we talked about it. And then he said, no, you're an idiot. Oh, I said, I know that. I know I'm an idiot. And he didn't know what to say. You see, if I'd have said, no, I'm not, he would have had 10 reasons why I was. But because I agreed with him, and I said to him, my friend, put aside our differences. We're Christians. We've got to care for each other. And he slammed the phone down. And that was fine. We dealt with that a little later. I got farewell orders, but that's beside the point. You see, love is important. Forgiveness is important. It's easy to hate someone. It's not so easy to come up to them and say, look, I've done wrong to you. I want to say I'm sorry. Sometimes we need to do that. Yes, love is the only law we need. If we have love, regardless of what the other laws are, we'll survive. And our survival kit will help us to do that. A king gave his son a special small silver arrow to carry with him wherever he went. Keep it in your pocket, the king said. Keep it in your pocket. Wherever the prince was going to do, whenever the prince was going to do something wrong, the arrow would prick him. And he didn't like it. So one day the prince left the arrow at home. And the boy, the trouble he got into because he didn't have a reminder. He was glad to get home in the end and put the arrow back in his pocket to remind him. Well, our arrow in our pocket is love. That can remind us. If we take it out, then we will hurt ourselves and others. God, in his wisdom, gave us his laws to keep us from doing wrong, from sinning, to guide us in the way of the right happiness. God gave us his word to keep in our heart and mind for us to love. When God says, thou shalt or thou shalt not, he is only saying, do yourself no harm. Do yourself no harm. Yes, let our love for everyone be the fulfillment of the law. What is the law? Love one another as I have loved you. We will be better for it. Trust and obey. For there's no other way to be happy in Jesus if we trust and obey. So in this next week, don't run amok. Love one another. Don't go out and murder someone or steal. Don't hurt the officer. Leave that up to, no. Just love each other and care for each other and our people around us. And people will see us. The people that come in to our cafe will see love in action because we care. So love is the only law you need. So let us all trust and obey. Thank you.